In the small town of Merrifield, tucked in a valley where the sun seemed reluctant to linger, stood an antique shop that no one could recall opening. Its sign, faded to illegibility, hung above a door that creaked even when still. Margaret, a widow in her late 50s, had passed the shop countless times but never entered until that autumn evening, drawn by a faint ticking that seemed to echo in her chest. She'd been restless since her husband's death a year prior, her nights filled with dreams of his voice calling from somewhere she couldn't reach. The ticking, soft but insistent, felt like a summons. Inside the shop was a labyrinth of cluttered, dusty mirrors, tarnished silver, and clocks of every kind, their hands frozen or spinning erratically. The air smelled of wax and something sharper, like old blood. Behind the counter stood an old man, his face so gaunt it seemed carved from driftwood. "Looking for something special?" he asked, his voice a dry rasp. Margaret hesitated, then mentioned the ticking. His eyes gleamed, and he beckoned her to a glass case in the back. Inside was a small clock, its frame carved from what looked like bone, yellowed and smooth. Its hands moved in fits and starts, not quite keeping time. "The bone clock," he said, "finds those who need it." Margaret frowned. "What does it do?" The old man's smile was thin. "It remembers." Against her better judgment, she bought it. At home, she placed the clock on her bedside table. Its ticking filled the room, not loud but inescapable, like a pulse. That night, her dreams were vivid. She saw her husband, Thomas, standing in a gray field, his face pale but whole. He reached for her, mouthing words she couldn't hear. She woke, gasping, the clock's hands spinning wildly before settling at midnight. Each night, the dreams grew clearer. Thomas stood closer, his eyes desperate, his hands stained with something dark. The clock's ticking seemed to guide the dreams, pulling her deeper. By the fifth night, she heard his voice. "Maggie, it's not me." She woke to find the clock's bone frame warm, almost soft, under her fingers. Unnerved, she tried to stop the clock, but its mechanism wouldn't budge. She wrapped it in a towel and shoved it in a drawer, but the ticking persisted, louder now, seeping into the walls. The dreams didn't stop either. Thomas's form began to change, his skin sagged, his eyes sank, and his voice grew guttural, not his own. "Let me out," it said. Margaret returned to the shop, clutching the clock, but the door was locked, the windows dark. A neighbor said the place had been empty for years. Panicked, she took the clock to the edge of town, intending to smash it, but her hands wouldn't obey. The ticking was in her head now, a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. She stumbled home, the clock's hands spinning faster, the bone frame pulsing faintly. That night, the dream was different. The gray field was gone, replaced by a vast, dark room. Thomas stood before her, but he wasn't Thomas. His body twisted, elongated, his limbs cracking as they stretched. His mouth opened and a voice not a spoke. "You brought me back." The clock's ticking filled the air, deafening, and the figure reached for her, its fingers bone-white and sharp. Margaret woke to silence. The clock was still, its hands frozen at midnight. Relief flooded her, but then she felt it a weight on her chest, heavy and cold. She looked down to see her own hands, pale and skeletal, clutching the clock. Her skin was thinning, her veins darkening, as if something was draining her from within. The ticking started again, not from the clock, but from inside her. By morning, Margaret was gone. The clock sat on her table, its bone frame gleaming, its hands ticking steadily. The neighbor who found her house empty swore she heard it whisper, "Next." And in Merrifield, another sleepless soul began to dream, drawn by a ticking that felt like home.